So, welcome to our next episode on Masterclass. You've met our guest before, Pritesh Gandhi. What is Masterclass all about? It's where we are looking at emerging technology and how this gets implemented at enterprise scale. And our season has been AI so far. You met our guest before, Pritesh Gandhi. The last time we met, we spoke about how AI enters customer experience, and you should listen to our previous episode. Pritesh opened up multiple areas which I want to slowly bring to a close today. He spoke about enterprise architecture, how systems of record could stop the largest ambitions, not to think just in terms of modular systems, but in terms of data silos. I want to take us back, Pritesh. Welcome.
Thank you, Prashant. Happy to be here.
Perfect. And I want to take us back to AI enhanced customer journeys. I want to tap into your experience. I'm sure you're full of examples. Help us understand, and maybe with multiple examples, how should one think of AI enhanced customer journeys? And feel free to take examples from travel and hospitality. I know that's where you spent many years over the last few years.
Absolutely, Prashant. Thank you. It's a great question, and it's also one of the areas that I'm quite passionate about. So, when it comes to experience and any of that, and when we start talking about AI, I just want to just clarify that some of this is not just like Gen AI, like we talked in our previous episode, and it exists out there, and a lot of organizations are doing that, and especially in the travel and hospitality world. KLM Airlines has been doing this for quite a long time. I think is they've introduced a Facebook Messenger chat, and the chatbot through Facebook Messenger provides passengers with their booking confirmation. You can book through it. They provide boarding passes, flight status updates. Now, those are simple things because you're just plugging into a system that gives you some of these details that exist, right? But they've started doing some more complex things through their Facebook Messenger chatbot, which is like a live chat option. Allows customers for complex queries about what happens when a flight is delayed, when a flight is canceled. And we all know that when it comes to passenger rights, they're a little bit more complicated and more challenging in Europe. So imagine some of these complex inquiries. How are they handled through these chatbots? So KLM, I would say, were one of the first ones to introduce a chatbot through Facebook Messenger, and they've been doing some great optimization work there, I would say. Booking.com, I believe
Hmm,
the online travel agency that we all know as,
yeah.
uses AI to provide personalized hotel recommendations. If you're logged in, looking at your past behavior, your past bookings, and your user preferences, and your search, and believe it or not, even your search history, they enhance your booking experience by offering you hotels that you previously searched for, stayed at, and things like that. Uh,
Hmm,
I think it's quite a good way of increasing customer satisfaction, right? Because one way to think about it, in the previous episode we talked about you looking for the top 10 Thai restaurants, and imagine uh, it gave you a result, and you picked, and you wanted to know more about a restaurant X that you wanted to go to. Now that behavior and that preference has been saved somewhere, so that next time when you come back, you want to start looking for something that is similar to it. You want to make sure that maybe it was more about there's a lot of different metadata when it comes to that restaurant. It could be customer satisfaction, it could be around the food quality, it could be around the wine, or some cocktails they offer. It could be a number of things, right? And as you know more about the hotel, the restaurant itself, you know more about what preferences you had. You can start matching that and start offering you something
hmm,
completely different genre, like completely different cuisine. If you start thinking about it, right? It's like, oh, now I want to check the best Italian place to go to. But because you picked the past restaurant, and maybe it was because of the wine they offered and the cocktails they offered, we're going to start giving you, recommendations on that. I know I jumped a bit on onto like more like the future there, but I was trying to show you the example of what Booking.com is starting to do or what they're doing there. Another one is cruise lines. Uh,
Mm.
Royal Caribbean has been using AI and sensors to predict equipments for their maintenance needs. So by identifying issues even before they cause problems, these companies can cause a smooth and safe sailing for the passengers. Now think about some of this equipment breaking and then causing further inconvenience to customers on their trip or any of that. So Royal Caribbean has been doing that for some time as well. Now you may not think about something like that
Yeah.
more from a customer facing lens, and you're like, oh, how can AI be used in something like that? Where indirectly it's a impact to customer experience when something breaks down, and it could be your HVAC, it could be whatever it is, right? And it's going to cause an inconvenience to your customers. So in the end, something even on the back end that is not customer facing, there are examples of AI that are being used. Um, Another one I would say is that, and this is a little bit more popular now, pretty
Mhm.
much in quite a few hotels, you'll start seeing this. But I remember quite a few years, a couple, maybe a few years ago, going to Vegas, and when Las Vegas had the Amazon Echo devices, and
Right.
in each of the guest rooms, right? And to create a more personalized in-room experience, right? Your guests can not only just control the environment within the room, like your thermostats, the light, the blinds, through the commands, but they can also start doing recommendations like make me a reservation at X, do this, things like that, right? So there are different ways to introduce that technology within the experience, I would say, and it can jump between airlines to cruise lines, front facing, customer facing to back end facing. Delta Airlines, for example, right, has
Yeah.
implemented and done this where they're using facial recognition for biometric boarding. And we know a lot of airports have done
Yeah.
biometrics where, instead of going seeing an immigration officer, you're using biometrics to do that. So I think that's a perfect use case. Again, where you've got a lot of travel tourism, you're going through a lot of stuff. It can allow you to streamline that boarding process or the entry process, and obviously it enhances security. It's not bypassing any security or any of that, right? And in fact, it actually makes security more robust than it would have been through manual handling. Um, maybe one more, and then I'll pause there because there's so many out there, and so many use cases. TripAdvisor uses AI to analyze customer reviews. Um,
Mm.
how many times like we go and we see this like recommended by TripAdvisor, right, or whatever the location or any of that. So they're generating insights based on customers and people's user experiences and the reviews that customers are leaving. And this is helping both the travelers but also the business, because the business can take this data and put it back into whatever they're trying to uh,
Yes.
you know get the customers to buy or do. They can help build that trust into whatever that decision the customer is going to make. So I think from a traveler perspective or a customer perspective, they say that, oh, 10,000 people have been here, done this, here's what the average rating looks like, the reviews look like, and things like that. And then the businesses can, on the other side, use that data and be like, you know what, 10,000 people have liked us in the past, so why don't you take a look at that, sort of a thing. So I think there is a lot of different use cases when it comes, from customer reviews to enhanced security to in-room experiences to predictive maintenance to I would say personalized recommendations when it comes to what you're looking to buy based on user preferences, bookings, to something simple as chatbots offering all kinds of information to you.
Pritesh, there's a term in manufacturing called hardware in loop. And hardware in loop just says if I ship a product and that product is on and it's connected all the time and it can track the usage of how the consumer or customer uses the product, and that that comes back into the factory, this knowledge back into the engineering, and engineering can say, okay, if this is how this product skews, then the version 2 of this product should look like that. Right? So this the entire concept is called hardware in loop. And as you were talking, you took us across your use cases into two areas, and I think you opened a new door for us. And I want to unpack that a little bit. You spoke just not about customer experience. You spoke about customer experience and then analyzing that customer feedback. The actually the opportunity of analyzing that customer feedback and matching it with usage patterns and bringing it back. So it feels like there is product and service innovation also happening at the same time as the customer experience. So are we entering this new world of, just like we have hardware in loop, is there now an experience in loop? Are we going to see innovations and offerings? So maybe AI starts informing the development of innovative products and services by analyzing real-time customer needs and market trends, so because you can change it almost immediately, and also maybe improvement suggestions. So now coming from AI to the Gen part of Gen AI, uh, actually you could analyze hundreds and hundreds of customer feedback and usage patterns right then and there, and you can actually suggest improvements in products and services which human couldn't think of. But you have the augmented designer, the augmented experience designer, the augmented product designer actually being poked and prodded, and maybe you can think of, and maybe this is interesting kind of ideas. You think we're coming into this cycle experience and loop?
I think we are absolutely, and it's not just around. And I think you kind of touched on it a bit. Was that it's not just optimizing the product based on the feedback a bit, but there might be a gap in a product, and there might be other product experiences that don't exist today. And by that feedback, for example, again, I'll give this right, is that any travelers with small families and young kids and traveling, I'm sure there is a ton of feedback that goes back into the hotels, a ton of feedback that goes into the cruise lines and into the airlines and everywhere, and airports as well, as you're going through security. Now, is there a possibility of a new product out there, a new offering, a new customer experience that doesn't exist today? I think that change is coming. Product managers, if you will, or people who are responsible for products are going to start looking at data sets in a different way. It's no longer just market research. If you start thinking about it, there is this new angle that you probably had access to before, but it would take you months and years to analyze. That can be actually at your fingertips now. So I totally agree that that change is coming, and there's going to be more data points that product managers and people are responsible for products and experiences can use now.
What if all of this happens, Pritesh? What do you think happens to this thing we used to call customer journey mapping? We used to still live, I hope, I don't know whether we still live in this world where you have this customer journey mapping of these seven steps, and you see what's the experience on each step, and you try to join dots. This feels almost retroactive now. It's because things seem to be happening at real time. Do you think is there a start and an end, or are we in a continuous loop? How should one even think customer journey mapping in what you just described?
I think personally, my perspective is that the customer journey mapping is not, it's not going away.
Right.
What is happening though is that each touch point is getting a little bit more personalized and
Mhm.
predictive. Now
Mhm.
that's the difference, right? And and you're correct that what ends up happening is that some organizations have six steps in the journey, some have 10, some because they go into micro steps within the journey, and sometimes those steps can overlap each other in a way, right? And you're like, okay, should I be touching the customer when you get into too much of a micro level or not, and things like that. So I think what ends up happening though is that your customer journey doesn't necessarily go away. What it helps you do is that within the customer journey, you're actually able to customize the experience a lot better at that each touch point. Remember the example of pre-purchase that I gave, right? Don't try to sell me a meal package right now. I'm not interested. But maybe sell me something at 7 p.m. when I'm having a meal. And, I'm reminded that, my family is going to be cranky tomorrow at the same time on the plane. Or even the bag situation you talked about, right? It's about uh, trying to sell a bag within maybe extra bags within a booking path may not be the right path or right place to sell it. So the journey or the touch point itself doesn't go away. What happens is that I personally feel that what ends up happening is that you will end up becoming a little bit more contextual. You'll end up becoming a little bit more personalized, and personalized not for that touch point, but personalized for the customer in that touch point.
At the moment, if you look at each touch point, the way we just spoke about, it's hyper contextualized. Your meal example was brilliant, right? Right at the time you're eating, I should ask you, are you going to be hungry at the next this time than tomorrow? And the answer is yes, and your baby definitely yes. So this is a fantastic example of a push. But imagine each touch point is actually AI enabled, and now things are getting so personalized. I'm stretching the analogy that now the user is part of the experience, and the user is actually is changing the design of the experience.
I
Where
yeah, no, I see that where the user can actually make that experience a lot better for the next time as well. And, um, I see certain companies starting to test that a little bit in their A/B testing a bit,
hmm hmm
saying that, was this offer helpful? Um, you're correct. So it's not just AI that you're bringing into the mix at each touch point. You want to bring the customer into the mix as well, so you can make your models a lot more better, right? So, maybe you got this wrong. Maybe, the kids are not eating at 7 p.m. or any of that, right? In this example, just stretching the example a bit more, right? And say that, no, I'm not interested in this push, right? Instead of trying to continuously keep going down that path, thinking that this is how we understand the customer, but engaging the customer within that path as well, and seeing, was the offer, was the message helpful, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And as you continuously learn about those patterns and behaviors of the customer by their own input into it, you're making it more hyper, like you're making it hyper personalized.
we're definitely entering a world we where we're looking at not just smart recommendations, we're looking at custom offers, smart recommendations and custom offers coming up in touch points. Customer journey maps still exist, customer journeys still exist. Maybe they don't look as linear as they are, they still exist. And all of this has to be implemented. And we just you spoke to us the last time you spoke to us, you said, okay, you have all these old systems, you have all these data silos. Do you think there's a new world of build coming up there? So we've bought all those systems, we've put all our data in there. Now we need to go and build these new systems. Do you think this logic is going to exist in the ERP packages we've bought so far? I think they might come down the road. How should one even think core versus context in such buy versus build decisions, Pritesh? You've been on this side of the equation.
I think this buy versus build debate has been on for I don't know. I feel almost like as long as my career has been sometimes, and it flip flops quite a bit. And there's a number of things before I probably answer my own personal view on this. Right, I'll say that a lot of things that come into place. Think about speed, right? A lot of times, speed is really really important for implementing something, and something that's pre-built comes with some established features, and that's great. Reliability sometimes is important, right? I mean, obviously something that's often well tested and maintained out of the box sort of a thing is going to have greater reliability to begin with. Cost efficient, right? How effective for common users,
Mm.
number of times use cases that's being used, and things like that, right? And then I think the more important ones are you going after common tasks and workflows and things like that, right?
Mhm.
When you
Mm.
start looking at some of those common tasks, like we said, right? We've been talking about i- in and out, right? You're looking at a face, you're recognizing something, and either you're in or you're out, right? It's sort of binary, right? Sort of a thing. You get into those things where standard workflows, and a lot of those align well with packaged systems. You don't need to go off and build certain things. You can customize it a bit, but not building it out of the box, sort of thing. So another example I can give is, like, um, think of like chat box, right? From
Yeah.
a context perspective and things like that. It could be built with a package solution, since they offer a common function. You are connecting into a knowledge base. It's an integration. And that's where, it's easier said than done, because your knowledge base could be sitting in different data silos, like I've said in the past, right? But it's an integration into your knowledge base, your FAQs, and all kinds of things. And you could connect those things fast, speed, reliability, and keep optimizing it. But say you want to build out an e-commerce platform,
Mm,
and you want to do you probably want a custom built approach to it, with fine-tuned recommendations, uh,
mm,
your specific audience, and things like that, where you're not going to go off and just build something because that's your secret. Some of it will be your secret sauce as you're building as part of it, right? It may look exactly like one e-commerce site to the other e-commerce site, but there's that secret sauce that goes in between, and that's where you're building certain custom code, if you will,
mm,
custom, to enhance that experience a bit more. So, ultimately, I feel the answer, personally, I'll say this, right, is that organizations may find that a hybrid approach is
yeah.
probably the most effective way. You may use, something that is, um, custom code for non-standard tasks and your
Mm,
secret costs, and you may end up using the standard AI systems for your your workflows that are straightforward, sort of a thing. But striking that balance is going to be important, and making sure that it aligns with the competitive advantages that you have is going to be important as well.
I completely agree, Pritesh. I think core versus context is going to be live with us. It's a fleeting decision, changes every year. Maybe let's go to the road ahead. The road ahead on what's next for AI and customer experience. If I ask you to, given you've been in this field for so many years, if I ask you to predict what could be the future trends for AI and ML in customer experience, what should we be expecting and looking for the next few years to come?
I think what will end up happening is that the hype will mature a bit, in the sense that, just trying to get it back to where we started, reality versus hype kind of a thing. What will end up happening is that it's not going to go away, in the sense, I'm not saying this is just one of those fads that came and went, but people are going to start realizing, organizations is going to start realizing that, there's a lot more that can be done. They're going to get over this FOMO that we talked about. Oh my God, I'm missing out, and we need to do that. So that is definitely going to come, which will allow organizations to start thinking clearly. So you're going to start seeing things where it actually matters, where it's being used quite a bit. We talked about predictive maintenance, right? I think we're going to start seeing a lot and lot more companies starting to do that. We're going to start seeing things where, certain places where you need turnarounds faster, right?
Right.
Imagine, you're a cruise line, and you're at the port, at the terminal, and you want to find out, like, what is taking longer to turn things around. There's a number of activities that happen at the port, from an operational perspective. There are cameras around everywhere, that you can detect, and you can see certain activities taking longer. So certain trucks coming in where, you know
Mm,
you're you're putting on certain equipment, your food, your beverages, all that kind of stuff, and whatever is going off the ship. You can monitor a lot of that, and you can start monitoring timestamps and a lot of that. So,
oh,
um, a certain activity maybe should take 20 minutes, but it's taking 40 minutes, and you start, drawing over a period of time certain trends on those activities, and start seeing that, okay, this is causing us a little bit more in terms of money, and in terms of turning things around a little bit more. So those kind of analytics where I think will come more from a back end perspective, but obviously the predictive maintenance and this kind of stuff, like I said, is going to get more and more pervasive inside organizations. They're going to start coming up with these use cases quite a bit. And then on the flip side, I think what will end up happening is that um, more product people, more customer experience people,
Mm.
like you said, right, are going to start looking at that customer feedback a lot more and start filling some of those gaps that we've been talking about in the customer experiences or in the product offerings. Um, and this could be through customized, hyper personalized experiences at each touch point, or it could be things like, you're walking through security in literally a minute. Believe it or not, all the technology that allows you to do that exists today. For us, not having to, wait through such big lineups at security at airports, that technology exists, but, it's not there yet. So I see us starting to, organizations starting to look at some of those experiences and making them better and better for customer experiences. So I think where that gap was, now you're not only looking at market research, you're not just looking at data points that you see. There's a number of ways to analyze all of that data and come up with these product gaps. So I think that is going to happen a lot more. And then I think there is this thing that I'll probably end it at that, and I'll tell you this. Right, I was reading up this somewhere, and I don't think it is far away, but it doesn't seem totally a way that we're going to get rid of human touch completely. But imagine, you booked a trip completely that was AI driven. It built an itinerary for you based on you're newly married. It's your honeymoon. You told them what dates you want. You've told them where you like a sun place. Here's how much you're willing to spend. All of that, and it's built up an itinerary for you. You've not touched anybody. You've probably not even looked at a website to look at all the options. Built out an itinerary for you. Um, and you're ready to go. So you've used a chatbot to check in. You got your boarding passes. You've scanned your bag already at home with a QR code, and it's inducted into the systems. You drop your bag off, zoom through security. You don't have to show your face. It's all facial recognition. You get on the plane again through facial recognition. You don't need to see anything. Get to your destination, and it'll be a self-driven car takes you to your destination because it was pre-booked. You get to your room through a self-driven, cart or whatever it is if you're on a resort, and then you get to your activities and excursions during that trip, and that could be all through headsets, VR-driven headsets, or your goggles or glasses that you've got, which tells you a story about the history if you're doing excursions and things like that, right? You can imagine what I'm talking about right now, and there's no single human touch here, right? Except maybe you were at the restaurant and then you got somebody who's actually helping you out with picking
Mm.
the right wine for you, right? Where your experiences become that much richer by talking to somebody about the wine, where it came from, and having that conversation. Granted, you could read that also, or by on a phone or a computer beside you, but that conversation makes it a little bit more richer. So I've read that up, and I think it's not a far possibility. It could happen in the future, but I think it's not going to be to that extent that we're talking about. I think there's still that level of human touch that people need and will be there. So I think it's somewhere in between there. And there's the reality of the first things I touched, and then there is a little bit of that. I wouldn't call it dreaming, but I think people being in that world where they think it could become completely touchless or void of human interaction at all.
This is amazing, Pritesh. I mean, if I just go back to the previous episode and this episode, and if you ask me to summarize my three takeaways from talking to you today, it felt like there are three things. The first thing is customer journey maps don't go away. It feels like it's not just linear. Touch points still exist, and I think we are experiencing a world which we have where the experience is coming back in the loop. And it's not just about customer experience, it's about how product and customer service innovation can happen at the same time. And this is turning into a loop. The
Absolutely.
second thing The second thing you raised the last time we spoke was that on as we do all of this, uh, the ethical concerns and the data privacy. Um, what I loved about that, Pritesh, is you didn't turn that into a bugbear. You didn't turn that into a monster. You said as long as you can show what you're doing with the data, things start getting clearer and much more allowable. And then I love the last thing you said. It's like everything can be AI, and everything potentially could be AI and will be designed as AI. So maybe we're entering a future where you're very purposely looking at each touch point and saying, okay, now in this particular case, this touch point is the human touch.
Exactly.
So this has been brilliant, Pritesh. As always, a pleasure to talk to you. And I hope anybody who's listening has had the same pleasure as I've had with Pritesh. Love to have you over and on another episode, Pritesh. I hope you enjoyed this. It was lovely having you.
Thank you, Prashant, for the opportunity. I enjoyed our conversation, and I do get passionate about these conversations. So happy to have a chat about this anytime. Um, Thank you.
Lovely. With that, we'll bring us to the end of today's episode and look forward to the next masterclass.